Hi, BookTube. Welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. So I don't know if I've ever done this before. I mean, I don't remember. I don't remember ever doing this before, but I kind of wanted to do a bit of a look back at all my Thrift Books purchases, which Thrift Books is an used bookstore online, an online used bookstore. I personally think it's a little bit better than Book Outlet, which I'm also on. Although I think Book Outlet, the prices are a little bit lower. But I seem to be more prone to find the books I want on Thrift Books than on Book Outlet. And I find myself still being more used to using Thrift Books. But I've been doing it for so long, it's like a habit now. I'm more comfortable with using Thrift Books. Like, I keep saying, oh, I'm going to remember to at least order again from Book Outlet, but then I don't. I'm just like, oh, I'll just go to Thrift Books. And thankfully, when I signed up for Thrift Books, I remembered there was a online book site that people had problems with. There had some problematic elements to it. I don't remember specifically what they were, but I do remember hearing about an online bookstore. And I was like, oh, I hope it's not, Thrift Books or Book Outlet. But I don't think either one of those was that bookstore, that online bookstore that had problems. I wish I had taken the opportunity to sign up for a book depository, which I think I did have an account. But I just never went on there. I was just so used to going to Thrift Books that I never went to a book depository, which is really sad because that I was told that was good for if you want to buy books that are overseas, like in other countries, like in England. If you want to buy books from that are with the UK covers, then that is the place to go. But sadly, Book Depository went out of business. So I wanted to show you all the Thrift Books purchases I have made and talk about which ones I have read, and then there's some of them I've started to read. And those usually are the longer books. And although I'm nervous because I'm worried that a lot of them, that there's going to be more books that I haven't read than I bought at Thrift Books than books I have read. And there might be some of them there might be some books that I bought from the books that I have put in the donation pile because either I lost interest in the book and it was a mistake for me to buy it, or it's I already read it and I thought it was good. It was a good book, a good read, but I decided I'm no longer interested. I don't need to keep it. Like that this book by Karen Lord. I cannot remember what the title was, but I bought that on Thrift Books. But then I started to read it and I was like, this is confusing. I'm not interested. And I don't know if this is the book for me. And it was I think it was one of those things where it was like online. The price was even lower. So, and I remember, I can't remember her actual name, but Literary Science Alliance, she is a big Karen Lord fan, and I started watching her channel. And I'm, I've been wanting to get into science fiction. Although I think when it comes to science fiction, I kind of like the stuff that feels more like fantasy, but still has a science fiction element to it. I think I definitely prefer those because they're easier for me to get into, and the science is less heavy. Sadly, that is what happened with, that one series, Children something. That one, I think it was a trilogy, and I tried to read it, but I just wasn't motivated. And I kept trying to, and the science I remember was confusing. Which I'm sorry to I remember there was one person that made a comment that tried to encourage me to give it another shot, and said it's not as hard. And it's not like it was super. It wasn't like it was in Latin or something. It wasn't necessarily a hard read. It just wasn't. It was a little confusing, and it was just hard for me to get into it. So sadly, that one ended up going bye-bye. But now that wasn't a Thrift Books purchase. That was a Books A Million purchase. But anyway, so that I cannot remember what the title is called. But that's the only one I could think of where I bought a thrift books and then I decided the book wasn't for me. The good news is it's not like buying NetBooks a Million where I'm paying like $20 or $30. That's why I was so determined to read. I hate when I'm like, I can't think of the names of the book of these books I'm about to talk about, but it was The Moon and its star or something. The moon and its sun or something like that. It's a series. It's a book. They talk about. It's a book that has been talked about on. It's a book talk book, and I bought it and then I just wasn't feeling it. Like, and there were things about it that I wasn't too keen on. And that one, unfortunately, that was a Books a Million purchase. So that was a mistake on my part. So I'm trying to make sure I don't do that again because, of course, chain bookstores, it's going to be more expensive. It's going to be like $20 or $30. So it's like, I don't want to make that mistake and waste my money buying a book that I end up not loving. Or at least I want it to be a situation where I've read the book, read the whole thing, and then if I end up, thinking it's just okay. Because if it's a book I'm just not loving and not feeling, then I'm more prone to DNF it and not even finish it. But anyway, so let's get to all the thrift books purchased. Now first, I'm going to talk about one that I am not sure if it was a thrift book purchase or not, because I have been, some of my thrift books purchases, I've been known to take the little price tag off of the books. But I decided to keep them on for some reason eventually. But there was a time when I first started getting thrift books purchases that I would take the little scan sticker off. But so that is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. I don't remember if this was an Amazon purchase or a thrift books purchase. I keep thinking, I keep going back and forth. Thinking, oh, it was an Amazon, but no, what if it was a thrift books, But I remember, this might have been one of the books where I'm like, I saw it on Amazon and I was immediately thinking about jumping on the chance to get it. This might be an Amazon purchase, actually. So it wouldn't count. But I don't know, so I'm going to mention it. And this is a fantasy, historical fantasy set in the Napoleonic Wars, I believe, and if I remember correctly, and I have not finished it, by the way. But this is an 800-page book, and this is like an alternate history world where at one time magic was real and there were wizards, but now people just study magic. They research magic, but there's no one that actually can practice it until one day this Mr. Norrell reveals himself and tells everybody that I am a magician, and they're like, you need to prove it. So he does this big trick that proves to people that he is a real magician, and he's kind of arrogant and self-centered and thinks he's the only one that can do magic right. So anyone that might practice it, because there are practitioners in the world. There are people that are mess around with it and dabble a little bit, but they're not true magicians. So they're like, or actually they look at it more like a religion, I think. Like they see it more as a religion. And so he's like, well, you're not true magician, so you're not allowed to practice anymore. And because he's so impressive, they just go with it. But then eventually, in the second half of the book, this younger magician shows up, Jonathan Strange, and proves he's just as skilled as Mr. Norrell. But Mr. Norrell decides, okay, I'm going to make this guy my apprentice because he doesn't want Strange to be his rival. He is he can't have a rival. So he decides to take him on as his apprentice, but the two seem to butt heads eventually and start not agreeing on how to use magic because Norrell is kind of more traditionalist, more conservative, old-fashioned, and then you have Jonathan Strange, who's a little more experimental and trying new things and realize that the world is changing and so is magic. And there's all these new methods to try. So, and this is, like I said, during the Napoleonic Wars, so Strange gets involved in the Napoleonic Wars while Norrell's like, I don't want to mess with that stuff. I don't want to get involved with that because I'm not going to waste my time with that. And Strange ends up being really helpful. And there also is this plot of this Fey prince shows up and starts messing and playing with the mortals and with the humans and trying to use them. And he gets attached to a couple of them. Like, he gets attached with this young woman. And he also decides to play with this black servant. And thinks he's a beautiful man and he should be a king and everything. But then it kind of, and even though there's a lot of, he seems to treat this young black servant with respect and admires him, there is a price, of course, because we're dealing with a fae. So I thought that plot was I liked that plot. That character is really fun. The Thistledown Man, that's because that's how they describe the way his hair looks. But yeah, obviously I have a good chunk to go, but I'm on chapter 41, so I'm on the almost towards the 600 pages mark, so I gotta read a good chunk. So this is one of the ones I probably should consider picking up soon, and start continuing with soon. So like I said, I don't remember if this is Amazon or Thrift Books. Actually, I want to say I got it off Amazon, but there is a possibility I might have ordered it off Thrift Books. Okay, now the rest of them, I'm pretty sure they're Thrift Books, because they all still have the little price sticker on them. Okay, so first, I got a lot of classics on Thrift Books. So, this first one, now this one I know for sure, even though I took off the little price sticker because of the way it looks right now. But I remember ordering this off of Thrift Books, because I was searching for these editions, and I knew they would not be at the roast office. And yes, I mean, and I don't know if they are ever at the country bookshop. I don't know if they're there. And of course, with Books A Million, if they're at Books A Million, then they're going to cost money. But I think this is only something I can buy at Barnes & Noble or online. And that is the cloth-bound editions. So I got the cloth-bound edition of Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. And like I said, either way, I bought it used because you have stains on there. Like someone probably spilled coffee or something, or soda. I mean, I hope not soda. And then some of the artwork on the cover design is faded a little bit. Like, you definitely can tell it's not by me. It's right there. I don't know if you can tell. Yeah, okay. Yep, like that. See, right there. But yeah, this stain, it's definitely not for me, because even though, yes, I drink coffee while I'm reading, I did not spill it on this book. But anyway, so this is Jane Austen's novel about the two sisters, the Dashwood sisters, and their half-brother has just gotten married, and he was told by their father in his will to give his sisters and his mom some money to live off of, but then his new wife talks him out of it because she's a greedy bitch. And so the sisters, well, there's actually 3 sisters. There's little Margaret, but she doesn't play a big of a role. Although, that's why I would love to do they have all these variations of Pride and Prejudice and these spin-offs of Pride and Prejudice, and every so often they have something of another book. Well, I think what would be a great story is if they did a story about Margaret and her finding a husband. Just like what they did for Mary Bennet. Like, someone should write a story about Margaret Dashwood. But, because she is a lot younger in this one. Like, she's not she's probably like a preteen in this book. But anyway, so the sisters and their mom, the 3 girls and their mom, have to live in the country in a little small cottage. And of course there is a love story. So the middle sister, Marianne, who's kind of she's very dramatic. I think she's a bit of a hypochondriac. She's always sick, and she's very sensitive, and just like everything's the end of the, she's very much a drama queen and is very emotional and very passionate. And she ends up meeting this guy who's a lot like her. I cannot remember his name, but her older sister Eleanor doesn't really like him, doesn't approve of him. And meanwhile, there's another guy that likes Marianne, a captain, I think he's a captain, but to Marianne, he's too old for her because he's in his 30s, and he's just not a great, and he's just not as passionate as she is. So she and her new beau are always making fun of him. Sorry, I cannot remember the names. And then you have Eleanor, the oldest, who she is in love with the Mr. Ferrers, but Ferrers has to marry was betrothed when he was a young man to another woman, another girl, and he won't say anything to so Eleanor is forced to let him go and walk away and just accept the fact that he's probably gonna marry someone else, and that frustrates Marianne. But I always love that this was about sisters, and now, like most people, I'm not too great. I am not that into, not crazy about the romances, but I think this is more a love story between the sisters, between Eleanor and Marianne, because they just do not understand each other. They get frustrated with each other. They just don't have the best relationship. Not that they're always fighting with each other, or at least not in this, but they just don't always see eye to eye. And it's about them growing together and learning from each other and, understanding each other better. But anyway, I love these cloth-bound editions. I know there are some, a lot of people find them hard to read because they're hardback books, and of course they fade real quickly if you're reading them all the time, and you get all the the oil from your fingers could make the book fade a little bit. But it's not like I'm gonna get every classic in this edition. I just want at least some of these in these editions, and I don't have the shelf space to have multiple copies of these books. So, and I don't mind. I don't, I get that some of them are going to fade, but it's not like I'm reading them all the time. So, but yeah, I really like, and I like that how they have these bookmarks, these ribbon bookmarks, and I like the designs. And it's nice that you don't have to worry about the dust jacket. And so, yeah, I know there are, so yeah, I get that there are problems, but I really like these editions. Okay, now, this one is the only one from this series where I've gotten this, where I bought this online. There's a few of these books where I've bought the next book in a series, but then the rest of my copies I've gotten somewhere else. Like an used bookstore, or I've, risked getting them on a chain bookstore. But this is the second book in the what's this here? All Souls series. This is the second book, which has been basically, it's like a more adult version of Twilight. It's set in a college, although this one is set in Elizabethan England. But it has the same plot of a mortal girl falling for a vampire. Except for in this case, she is a witch. And I think she can do a lot more than Bella can. Because of her Wiccan powers. Because she's a witch. But she is seen as kind of special. Because she has all this power built up inside of her. That she refuses to... That in the first book she refused to use. Because she thinks it killed her parents. And... I love the setting of these books, or at least I love saying the first book, and they do go to Elizabethan England in this one, as I said, and I actually like Matthew a little bit better than Edward. I mean, yes, there are aspects of his personality that are, I can see where not everybody loves, because that's a lot of times that's what you get with vampire stories. People think, but these are just fun to read, fun books to read. Like I said, I think I got the third book either used or no, I think I did get it used. Like, I finally saw it at Gibbons, but I remember like just I kept seeing at Books a Million and kept picking it up, putting it in my cart, because I would grab a cart because I would pick multiple books. But then I just would put it back because when I go to Books a Million, or if I make that hour-long trip to Barnes & Noble or something, then it's got, I want to either pick out something I'm super excited to read in the moment or a newer book that I haven't discovered yet. So when it comes to series, sometimes I don't always want to buy them at the chain bookstore. There are times like I will buy series at a Books a Million or Barnes & Noble if I haven't started the first book and I'm trying to buy. Like, this is what happened with the Live Ship Trader series. I've been wanting the certain edition of them. So for the first time I saw that Books a Million, I was like, I've been immediately grabbing them. Now I have not gotten the third book, but I've gotten book 1 and 2. And I'm always worried it's going to disappear, and then I'm going to have to buy it online anyway. So, and sometimes when it comes to that, like certain editions that you want of certain books, like if you want the UK cover or a certain edition of a classic, like a cloth bound or something, then it's kind of hard because everybody's going to immediately grab it. It's going to disappear quickly. And I try not to shop on thrift books every month. Like, I'm trying to not do that. And it doesn't always, and sometimes it doesn't always go as well, because I end up, like, 3 months in a row, I end up shopping there. So I am trying to, like, at least skip every other month and not, but it's a little hard, especially when I get emails and I'm like, like, ooh, I should take advantage of that deal. Like, there was a deal in March, like, I guess March is National Reading Month, which I did not know that. And then they were like, you buy this many books, then you get a free credit in April. And it was, so, like, that was, so I was tempted to do that. And I did buy at the end, a few days ago, I did buy something from Thrift Books. I bought 2 things, but I didn't buy 4 books. I just bought 2 books. But yeah, okay, so I'm done. So there's that. Shadow of Night. Okay. Now, I do buy a lot of classics, because even though I have found classics, there is a good shelf, and the country bookshop has a decent selection. And then there is, like, the Given bookshop, the Roast Office. It does have a shelf, but it's a small shelf, so there's no, so sometimes I either am just not interested in the classic, or it's a book that I already have. And the only time I might buy one that I already have is if I have the edition that I don't want, and then I want to trade up. Like, that's what happened with Count of Monte Cristo. Like, I mean, there was nothing wrong with my edition of Count of Monte Cristo. It was perfectly nice. It's an Oxford World Classics edition. It was in perfect good condition. I was fine with the ink of the writing and everything, and it, had good notes, and it was the right size. It wasn't a mass market or a hardback book. But I kind of saw this Penguin version, and I think also I was reminded of the Penguin version existence because I was watching Emmy and Caroline Marie Reed's video, doing their streaming discussion of Count of Monte Cristo, and one of them was reading that edition. I was like, ooh, I want that one. And I saw the roast up, and I was like, oh, well, my current edition is looking a little shabby, so maybe I should get this one. Now, I have not gotten rid of that edition, which I don't know, maybe I should and give it to, but I don't know if there would take it because it's not. It really is generally not in the best condition right now. I mean, it's still readable, but like it's a little torn, and you can tell it's very well read. It's been read a lot. Like, it's not that I've read it multiple times. Like, not that I've read cover to cover the book multiple times, but I picked it up multiple times and will read a little bit of it. And I'm, putting it back on my shelf. Sometimes when I'm trying to, quote unquote, shove books on there, sometimes they get ruined. Which I know, that's, how dare I treat, that's blasphemous, treat my books like that. But it's not that I purposely, like, but sometimes I get, like, frustrated because I'm trying to fit it in a slot, and then, like, the other books, like, lean or move or whatever, and I'm like, trying to shove it in there, and I'm like, uh-oh, don't want to, but I don't know. Anyway. So I get a lot of classics. You saw I got Sense and Sensibility from there, so two other classics. First, I have Dombey and Son, which I started this. It's another one I need to continue with. About a Mr. Dombey. He's always wanted a boy to take over the family business, and he thinks he has a daughter, Florence, but he thinks nothing of her because she's not important. She's not worth anything because she's just a girl, and she can't take over the business. And so his wife does give birth to a son, but things don't exactly go the way he had hoped with his son, and he still kind of ignores his daughter and abandons her, so she's kind of raised by other people, and they all really like her because she's so sweet and kind, and, they all feel sorry for her and want to help her and offer her friendship and love, and it's just a sad story because you feel really frustrated. And now Mr. Dombey is trying to get her married off and also get her a new mom. And you feel so bad for Florence because it's like, girl, you're not responsible for your father being an ass to you. You are not. This is not your fault. But anyway, so as you can see, I'm at that. I guess you would say it looks like I'm like at the halfway point of this one. So this is another one I need to continue with. But as you can see, it's very well read. Like, it was probably an acceptable copy. A good or acceptable copy that I got at Thrift Books. But as long as it's not like with, I think I want to say that my the old Curiosity Shop, I don't remember anymore if I got that one all with Thrift Books or if I got that used, but I think if I got it all with Thrift Books, it's one of the ones it turned out it fell apart because the pages basically came out of the spine. So I ended up buying a copy of an audiobook copy of it and just listened to it on audiobook because I wanted to finish the story. And I got it on audio for like 99 cents. So I just bought it and finished it, and so I still have it, so I could always listen to it again. But it's not my favorite Dickens. And Nell, even though I love her relationship with her grandfather in that story, it just was Nell was one of Dickens's angelic characters that just is like, okay, little girl's not that perfect. She's not that sweet. Sometimes little girls can be brats. Speaking of angelic characters, I was able to watch The Artful Dodger after all, which is the character, one of the boys that Oliver Twist joins up with when he becomes part of the Thieves Guild, becomes a thief. And he actually, in an episode, he's reunited with Fate. It's a story about, like, the Artful Dodger, aka Jim Dawkins, has grown up. See, he was abandoned by Fagin, and he grows up and becomes a doctor, a surgeon, and Fagin shows up back in his life again, and he made, because, doctors / surgeons did not get paid, he has to make money in his own way, so he starts gambling, and he gets into debt. So Fagin offers to help him by persuading him to get back into thieving, but he doesn't want to because he's made himself respectable. And him and Fagin are having a conversation because he's been trying to get away from Fagin, and he's like, we don't have anything in common. You abandoned me. Why should I trust you? And Fagin, tries to come up with things that they have in common, like that they were thieves together. And then he says, like, and I think he mentions Oliver Twist, and I meant to go back and just listen to it again, listen to the scene again, but it's too late. I have to wait until I go through the episodes again. But I think he refers to Oliver Twist as a wet blanket. So I thought that was really funny. But anyway, back to this. So yeah, it's very well read. Not by me though. I mean, yes, I have read it, but the reasons all torn up is not because of me. I think it was one of the acceptable editions. So again, the whole Curiosity Shop I think is one of the time was the only time where it looks end up. It's not, where I think I got Thrift Books purchased that fell apart, but that might have been me picking the wrong, like the acceptable copy or something. And then I did also one other book I got from Thrift Books that was a Dickens book. Actually, was Hard Times. I got the English Penguin Library edition, and then I ended up deciding I didn't love it and giving it away. So now next time, if I want to buy it again and give it another shot, I either have to get it an audiobook or see if it ever shows up at Gibbons again, or get it at BAM, because every time, my mom was the other day was like, don't buy anything on Thrift Books if you end up not loving it. But, like, you gotta be careful with that. It's like, well, no, I mean, it's not, I haven't done that often. But anyway, so there's that one. And then the other classic is kind of a Steve Donahue inspiration, and that was The History of the Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. I've always been interested in Rome, so I started reading this. Now, this is a dense read, and it's a lot. And this is the abridged version. This is one of the few times where I don't mind having an abridged version, because I'm like, first of all, I don't think you can get access to the whole thing. But yeah, basically, this is the history of Rome, the Roman Empire. And as I say, I did read a little bit, but it's one of those books where I need to read during a certain time. Okay, so there's that one. So, Sense and Sensibility. Oh, well, I forgot to mention the other reason why I'm doing this video is talking about the ones I've read. So I have read Sense and Sensibility twice. And then we have, one that is a more recent, like as in a purchase last year. And that is A Natural History of Dragons. This is one of from Jean's Bookish Thoughts. It's one of her favorite books, and I got it from the library, but at the time I just wasn't feeling the book. But I borrowed it from the library, so it's not like a big deal. And finally decided, I'm going to go and buy it again and give it another shot so that I can take my time with it. But I love the concept of this one. This one was really cool because it's basically like with Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. It's a historical where it's like, what if, but in this case, it's what if dragons had existed. The same, kind of like with the Temeraire series, except instead of it being like warfare and them using the dragons, you have a woman studying the dragons and like a scientist, which dragons, and this is like her memoirs. Well, that she has these illustrations. There's illustrations in here. But that whole concept was always intriguing to me. It's just, like I said, at the time when I first borrowed it from the library, I just wasn't feeling this kind of story. So I have not read this one yet. So far, the only one I have read and completed was Sense and Sensibility, and I've read that twice. The rest of them, either I'm in the middle of them or I have not started. So another book from a series that I started but have not read, actually no, I haven't started this one. And that is Senlin Ascends by Josiah Bancroft. So this, I would have to say, is kind of a Alan from the Library of Alexandria inspiration. him, and there's a few other fantasy readers that love this series. But this is, although they're not happy with the end, there are a lot of people that aren't happy with the end, the last book. But this is a 4-book series, and this is about this guy who's he just got married, and in this fantasy world, there's this famous tower that each level has a little bit of a city in it, and he takes his new bride to this tower, the Tower of Babel, and he ends up losing her when they get there. She gets kidnapped. So he has to go through the tower and go to each level to get to her, to get to his wife. And like I said, the premise sounded really cool and very different. The sound of the type of person the main character was sounded really interesting. You know, it was nice to see someone that's not like a Rick O'Connell type character, but more like this kind of professory type, like Giles from Buffy. Although, you know, Giles is pretty, you learn that Giles was pretty badass in his youth. So, maybe he's not, maybe more like Wesley. Maybe he's more like a Wesley type. But again, I am not starting this one. I am thinking about starting this one soon. Because I have not read a fantasy lately. I mean, I did earlier in January. I read January into February. I did read the not Shadow of What Was Lost, but the sequel to that one. I read that one. So, and I want to make sure I make progress on series. Okay, so next is another book from a series where I've read the first book and I bought the second one because the first book is the only one I've seen at Books A Million. But this is Under the Northern Sky, that's the series, and this is book 2, The Spider. And I probably will have to get book 3 also, which is called The Cuckoo off of Thrift Books. Or maybe I'll get it as a gift from Amazon. So this is kind of a Viking story. You have our main character. What is let me see if I can Roper. Oh wait, no. What is it? Maybe it's Roper. Yeah, it is Roper. Roper is the main character. Something in the back description made me think, what? Roper's gone? You know, something happened to Roper. Our main character, his father was killed in the first book. So he is thrust into a leadership position, but he has a rival and he has to earn that role of leadership and prove himself to his army, to his kingdom. And meanwhile, these other kingdoms are trying to take over their land and everything. So it kind of follows. It's like probably a good to be paired with Bernard Cornwell's The Saxon series because it has a similar story. Just it only has 3 books instead of like 9, I think. The Saxon series is how long the Saxon series is, but and this is the second one, The Spider. And I can't really tell you guys because unless you've read the first book, and I don't know if you guys have, so I can't really tell you what the second one is about. But like I said, I do not see I've only seen the first one at like I said, I've only seen the first one at BAM. I mean, I don't know if this is what I would see these at Barnes & Noble if I did go. But anyway, so I got this one. So there's this one. And then we have, I got Rebecca. So this is about the title character of the book, Rebecca, by Daphne du Maurier. Now she is a character. She's not the main character in Rebecca. She's in. This is Rebecca's Tale. This is Rebecca's Tale. But in Daphne du Maurier's novel, Rebecca is not the main character. She is the wife that died, and there's all these rumors and beliefs that her husband might have murdered her. So we meet our narrator, who is unnamed, and she is, very shy and quiet and reserved. Doesn't really, speak up for herself. And just does what she's told. She's working for this rich American heiress, this rich American woman, and they're staying in Monte Carlo, I think. And they run into this famous rich man Let me see if it's on the Maxim de Winter. And, you know, the woman that our main character is working for knows all about him, knows that his wife mysteriously died. He's very wealthy, and she's right up in there wanting to get to know him and talk to him and stuff and harm him. But it doesn't, you know, she ends up getting ill at one point, so our main narrator Maxim ends up being interested in our narrator, and they start spending time together while they're visiting and hanging out together, and they fall in love and decide to get married, although I think she loves him more than he loves her. And right before she leaves, she's all upset because she knows that they're leaving, but he's like, well, let's get married. So, and when they get married, the servants aren't as accepting of them, because they love Rebecca, especially Miss Danvers, the head housekeeper, and they talk about how she can't compare to Rebecca. Rebecca did things this way, and she was like this, and there's all this speculation that Maxim might have murdered her, and there might have been something going on, and our narrator just tries to be like Rebecca, and so it's a bit of a thriller mystery type story. So this is Rebecca. This is about Rebecca and her origins, kind of like how Whites Across the Sea is about Bertha, Antoinetta Mason, and her, you know, how she met Rochester and why she ended up getting married to him and why she was mentally unstable and everything. Well, this does the same thing, where it's about a character, you know, the previous wife. And we get her version of things. So I've been excited to read this. I think I might read this spring. So basically, there's only one book so far that I've read. But there are a lot of them that I have started. So hopefully I'll be able to knock this one out. But hopefully I'm looking at these piles, and I don't know if there's any more that I've read. I do have a pile of books that are not from Thrift books I want to show you from Book Outlet that I have read at least 3 of them, and I'm in the middle of another one, so I'll show you. So that makes me feel a little better. Okay, so next we have another part of a fantasy series, and that is the Son of a Witch. I'm always amused at the title of this one. This is the sequel to Wicked, which is what that musical is based on, which is the origin stories of the Wicked Witch of the West. Now, if you've seen the musical and not read the book is definitely darker and has more mature themes and has some stuff in there that I think not everybody would be comfortable with. I'm not surprised that Kaylee from Lumos Libero was not happy with Wicked, did not like it wasn't the book for her. But this is the sequel about the son, about her illegitimate son, I think. Or it is believed that he might be her son, she might have had a child with a certain character from Wicked, and he's trying to find himself and find out more about his mother. Which is, I found it kind of funny that, now it's been a while, so I don't remember a lot about this, but it was funny that Larissa talked about reading this book. She's reading the series because I gave her my original copies, and she said how she was not even she did not love this one as much as she loved Wicked because of the main character Lear, and just his, he's kind of emo boy. But anyway, I do want to reread this. So in a way, I have read this one, but I have not read this copy. My old copy was this copy, or similar to this copy, but I have not read it for a second, reread it, and I've been meaning to. So I feel like I should reread it this spring. As I'm showing you these books, I feel like I need to go through them, pick some of the books off of here to read. That's what I should do for the TBR clear out, is read some of my Thrift books purchases, so I have more of them read. And something like this and those two fantasy books might be good because they're not as dense, so they won't take me as long to read. Not that that should matter, but I'm trying to read some of my books, and I always, like, I'm reading the longer ones, and even though I'm enjoying them, I'm like, oh, I feel like I should read one that won't take me as long, so I can be like, I read this book. Okay, so the next one is actually one of the said long books, and that is The Brothers Karamazov. And I started this one. I haven't even got to the main conflict, the main catalyst event that leads to the conflict in this book. But this is about this group of brothers. Their father is an ass, and someone murders him. And each of the brothers is a suspect in the murder. Now there was a spin-off. There was not a spin-off. There was a book. The brothers, I can't remember what it's called. I read it last year and I really liked it. It's the Asian American Chinese version of this plot. It was pretty good. So I'm guessing I got a little spoiled for what happens in this book, because I'm assuming that it follows the events of this book. The brothers Chen or Lao or something. I wish I could remember what that book is called, but it was good. And it's a lot shorter. So if you want to get this same plot, then this other book, if I should tell you, maybe if I remember, I'll put the link to that book in there. If you want to read this kind of plot, but or at least get an idea of this plot, then maybe read that book, because it's a lot shorter. So there's that one. Oh, and there's less, there's less religion in that one. There's probably less philosophizing religion and less of, preaching, because Alyosha is a priest in training, or a monk or actually I think he's a monk, and he does a lot of preaching. He's a very godly person. So I know that everybody's gonna respond to that. Okay, and then we have. Okay, so next is a Bronte novel, Shirley, by Charlotte. So I've read some of her books. I've read Agnes Grey, which that might have been a Thrift Books purchase, and I thought it was okay. I ended up donating that one. I didn't connect with that one as much, but I did. Oh, Agnes Grey. No, that's not Charlotte. That's Anne Bronte. Agnes Grey. So I've read her books, and there's another book of hers that I have somewhere here. Either that, or I hope I didn't forget to grab it. That's also, I have her other book, The Ten in a Wildfell Hall. It's hard to see it here. I don't know if it's in the pile somewhere, but it is Ten of Wildfell Hall is another one. It wasn't Agnes Grey, it was Villette. I read that one, and that's the one that I wasn't too crazy about. I thought it was okay. That was a Thrift Books purchase, I think, and I ended up donating that one. But it was interesting. It was an interesting story, but it still was not the book for me compared to Jane Eyre. But it explored similar themes I feel like it explored similar themes to Jane Eyre. But this is Shirley. So this one is set among the cloth mills in Yorkshire. It's at the end of the Napoleonic Wars. I didn't know that. I feel like I keep coming across the Napoleonic Wars in novels, so I don't know what this one is about. It's just a Bronte novel, and I figured I will probably enjoy it. But then again, I did not enjoy Villette, so we will see. But like I said, it is a Thrift Book purchase, so I didn't spend that much on it. But I haven't picked this one up yet. But I do want to pick it up soon. And it is one of my, and it's titled with an S, and I have a lot of S title books that I haven't read. But I did just read a book with the S title, which is Sword Song. is from the Saxon series, so I can mark that off. So one number less of S titles have been read. So then we have, we have our first Anne Rice book that I haven't finished, and that it was more, now to be fair, this is a more recent. This is called The Mummy, or Ramesses the Damned. It has nothing to do with the Brendan Fraser movie and Rachel Weisz. It's basically from the back description. I think, Ramesses the Damned has lived a long time, and he's living in modern times. And I think, he has the elixir of life, and he can never be satisfied. Which I like. I actually kind of like that concept. The whole idea of someone living forever, being immortal, but they just can't make themselves happy. They're never satisfied because even though they can live forever, we're meant to not live forever. And the idea of living forever and then realizing you can live forever, but you'll never be happy. There are 2 other books in the series, probably would help, from Anne Rice's son, but it's not as long as The Witching Hour, so I have thought about picking this up and starting this one. I had just finished Interview with a Vampire and did a separate review, so and that one definitely would take us long. But I don't have the other books in the Vampire Chronicles series, so I thought maybe I'll read this one. So obviously I haven't picked it up yet. So then we have okay, so let's see. I have this one. Okay, I can't get it, but I have the whole. Wait, there it is. Okay, maybe I can get it. Okay. I have the whole trilogy of the Mayfair Witches, which just recently got adapted along with the Vampire Chronicles on AMC. Which I was surprised how much longer The Witching Hour is compared to the books 2 and 3. I remember really liking her characters in this one, and I was big into witches at one time. I still love the witch stories, but and then I kind of got myself spoiled. I wasn't sure how I felt about the direction the story is going, but then I've gotten older and matured, and I've changed, and I know where it goes, so I'm okay with it now. But so yeah, I don't know which one comes first. I have to double check which one. Lasher or Tattletale is the second book. But this is, as you can see, I've gotten a little bit farther than last time I stopped reading the book. I'm on chapter 10 of The Witching Hour, but it's about, you have this family of witches, and they kind of have a devil shadow figure that follows them around and messes with them and manipulates them. And the family decided, their most recent heir, Deidre Mayfair, has been kind of in a comatose state, and they put her in a home, but she has a daughter, and they send her daughter away to California to live with distant cousins to keep her away from all this. Well, the shadowy figure is not to be messed with, and he continues, and he's waiting for her to come back to New Orleans. And you find out, and she crosses paths with this young man named Michael, who, had fallen off of a boat, and he's an architect. He fell off of a boat, and she saves his life. And so he has a near-life-death experience and gets these powers. Psychosymmetry, I think, where you touch objects and you see the object's history, well, he ends up doing that, and it kind of drives him all nuts, and he isolates himself. And he becomes obsessed with finding the person that saved him. And he's also obsessed with New Orleans. He loves that city and wants to go back. And he knows that this is connected to that. And he is approached. And eventually he and they cross. And there's also this group of people the secret society who is trying to research the Mayfair family and understand them and figure out what the deal is with this devil figure and knows history and everything. And they want to recruit Michael to join them to help them. It's so far, I do enjoy the book. It's just a long book. See, that's my biggest problem is these longer books. Like, even if I'm enjoying the story, I end up putting them down because all of a sudden I'm distracted by shorter books. So, there's that. And this is only a trilogy. I don't think there's been any other books. But I don't want to. And, you know, the thing about this one is I wanted to, when I first bought my mass market copy of it, I'm like, I want to read this because everyone loves the vampires. Well, I like the witches, and I want to read about her witches series. So, I still have not continued it, though. So, another one that I have not read. Like I said, I feel like I should go through these and pick some of these books and actually read some more of them. I mean, I'm hoping I come across one that I have finished and read. So far, the only ones I know for sure that I read are the Book Outlet books. And then one book from... Okay, next, another classic. We have Wives and Daughters by Elizabeth Gaskell. And I think I have another Gaskell in here somewhere. This is about this father and daughter, and the mom had died years ago, so it's just her father and daughter for the longest time, and then the dad decides to get remarried, and he marries a woman who has her own daughter, and so it's a bit of an adjustment. Now, it's not like a Cinderella story or anything where the stepmother and stepsister are mean, as far as from what I've read, but it is a bit of adjustment for the daughter, for the man's daughter, and reconnecting, and I think she does form a relationship, a friendship with her new stepsister. But yeah, I've always liked Gaskell, and I liked her writing, so I did start reading a little bit of this. I guess I lost the bookmark at some point, so I'll have to start over, but yeah, I barely remember, and I only got to chapter 1, and plus I have it, the page marked on Goodreads, so I can always look at Goodreads if I want to, take it off from where I last read. I also kind of like the idea that this is pink. I like the pink. I like the colorfulness of the Barnes & Noble editions. I know they're not fancy or anything. They're just kind of plain, but I like how each one is a different color or a different shade of certain colors. And it looks kind of cool together. It looks pretty, all of them together, and making a little bit of a rainbow if you get multiple. But, yeah, another one, but that one's kind of long, so, okay, and then we have the Prose Edda. This is the Edda. This is a collection of the, where is it? Let's see. The Viking poetry, all their, so, and I kind of think of, Thor and Loki from the Marvel version, because I have not read the versions beyond that. So, but I know a little bit about that because there's a channel I watch on YouTube. I can't think of what the channel is called at the moment, but he does a lot of recaps of fairy tales and mythologies. And talking about their origins, and he's really funny because he's very sarcastic and snarky when he talks about that, and it's really fun. He also has these two little cute little dogs that make appearances every so often, but that's the only reason why I know a little as much as I do about the actual history of Loki and Thor, going beyond the Marvel version of them. But because of Marvel, I've always been interested in Viking lore and everything. That's why I decided to check the Saxon series out. Because it is a little bit of it. And then that other series, the Under the Northern Sky series. But yeah, so, and you would think with poetry, but that's when it comes to, which actually, my Paradise Lost and The Divine Come and Portable Dante. Actually, no, those are Books A Million. I was gonna say they might be thrift books, but no, I think those are Books A Million purchases. But I need to make a Viking themed month. I should do that because I have a lot of Viking. Maybe this summer. Although I have a bad habit of having plans and then it doesn't happen because I'm getting distracted. So maybe I should do Viking June or something. Do it as soon as summer hits. And then we have another one that I've started. I can't remember if... Actually, Armadale might be a thrift book. Actually, no, wait, Armadale is actually Black Castle purchase. So I purchased also The Woman in White. I had, again, another one where I had the mass market, but then I wanted to get one that was regular size. So, and I've read, some of it. I'm on chapter... This is chapter 17. So I made a little bit of progress on it, more than I did last time. So, this is about this, I want to say a doctor. Is he a doctor? It doesn't say what he is. I want to say he might be a teacher. And he's going to this famous rich people's house, and he meets this woman on his way. He meets this woman dressed in white on the road, and she's begging him not to say anything if people might ask about her. And he ends up and he does what she asks. He doesn't say anything, but then he suspects. He doesn't know if she might be a criminal or she might be she might be a crazy person, and then he ends up crossing paths with her again when he goes to the house of the rich people. So I do like Wilkie Collins. This is another goal of mine to read Wilkie Collins. I have 3 or 4 of his books. I think 3, and I've cracked them open, but I haven't finished them. So I need to get back to one of these books. I have the Moonstone. The Moonstone might be in this pile somewhere, because I think that was also a thrift books purchase. But this is a bit of a mystery, and part of me is all like, oh, I should save it for October or September when that time comes around. Then I'm not reading it. I don't want to read it, so I can't plan too far ahead. Okay, and then we have, this is one of the times where I got a hardback book, and I didn't mean to, but I saw it, for sale. I was like, I knew that I wanted to get a hardback version of this for a cheaper price, so I got it. This is one that, Ellie Brooks has talked about, and I think she liked it, and that's, the first time I'd heard about this. And so this is a retelling of King Lear, but through the eyes of the daughters. And so I bought the play, King Lear, and I read it. I loved it. I loved it even more than Hamlet. Which is a really sad play, actually. So, like I said, this is from the daughter's perspective. So I read this, and I meant to read it this winter, but now winter's over. Because that's when I read King Lear. I think I read it around December when I read King Lear. So I meant to read it around the same time, but I didn't get around to it. So now I want to read this soon. But I love this, and if I got it at a regular bookstore, it's $26.99. That's almost $30 if I got it at regular price. But so yeah, I want to read this soon. Again, another one that I should read soon, I feel like. Okay, and then we have, I think I got all the other books in the series. I'm trying to remember if I got all the books in the series via thrift books or not, but I know I got the third book, and that is the Song of Ice and Fire series, the third book being Storm of Swords, and this was hilarious that I got this one, because, when it comes to thrift books, you might not exactly get the cover of the book that is seen on the screen. So it came with this one. This is a very 80s, 90s cover, I feel like. So this is the third book in the series. I have been meaning to get back into the series because, you know, now that the show's done, I won't get distracted by the show. But then I got also the Fire and Blood, which is about the Targaryen family, and that show's going on now, and I've been wanting to restart reading it before the show because I don't want to make the same mistake and then wait, you know, restart it and then but then get distracted by the show and think, oh, let me watch the show first. I don't want to read the book because I'm watching the show. So I've been meaning to read, and I still have not picked up Fire and Blood because it's a long book and it's like reading a textbook. Not in the fact that it's boring, but it kind of looks like a textbook. I mean, not like our kinds of textbooks per se, but it's like, it looks like nonfiction, even though it's not. It's a fantasy world. So this is the third book, as you can see, and it was originally a library book because it has like the library scanner, and then it has like the thing that you slip in the cards when you rent the book, when you borrow it. And like I said, it's a very old cover. It has this one, which is the label that says what library it came from, and on the front, and it came from the Antioch Community Library, Illinois. So it was from Illinois. It came all the way from Illinois to come to me. So I've read the first book. I'm still in the middle of book 2, though. So I don't know. Like I said, I can't remember if I got the other books off Thrift or not. So I don't have them here. Okay, and then you have this also I think was last year or the year or 2022, but this is Nicholas Nickleby with, and I believe this is a miniseries tie-in edition. And which is really cool because I didn't realize how many British actors I'm familiar with are in this book. You have Anne Hathaway plays our main character. I mean, Anne Hathaway plays the girl in this. Then you have, I cannot remember his name, but he was St. John in the Jane Eyre 2011. I don't remember his name. And he's famous for the Billy Elliot movie. And then Alan Cumming, Nathan Lane, Christopher Plummer, and I'm trying to think of who else. You might say Timothy Spall, Charlie Hunnam, which I know that name, but I cannot think of what I know him from. Oh, and Jim Broadbent, Jamie Bell, that's who that is. Jim Broadbent, and I actually am not as bothered by these tie-in editions as some people are. Like, I don't mind them as much. I know that a lot of people don't love movie, tie-in editions of books, movie or TV show tie-ins, but oh, it was a movie. I think this was a movie, but anyway, oh, Timothy Spall. I didn't recognize it. Okay, so I'm not gonna go and tell you what this one is about, read the back, because I do gotta go down the stairs and check on my dog. I was supposed to while my parents were running errands. Like, they were like, oh, he'll be okay, but check on him. So, I just want to get through these quickly before they get home, so I can check on him. Okay, so this was a more recent, one of these was a more recent purchase. So I got all 3 Hearthstone books off of Thrift Books. This is another Jean from Jean Bookish Thoughts recommendation. It is a retelling of Pride and Prejudice, but you have our main characters as dragon riders. And it is similar to, which actually that might have also been a Thrift Book purchase, the Tooth and Claw, except in that one the dragons are the main characters. And that's kind of a Pride and Prejudice retelling, but I feel like it also is a Jane Austen retelling in general. But it is that one. That was such a cool concept. I do want to reread that again. The idea of the Jane Austen characters, but they are dragons, and then this means they are dragon riders. Like, I love fantasy stories that are either based on a classic or they're historical. I'm loving Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, and what was the other one? I can't remember what the other one was called, but yeah, that concept of history mixed with fantasy, but kind of doing it, but taking place in a time period that is not as, like, you see a lot of people write medieval, stories, magic, or like, I'm trying to think of there's another time period where you see a lot of fantasy books set in that time period. Like, I got excited with the Diviners because it was in the 1920s. You don't see as many, you didn't, at the time when the Diviners came out, I didn't see a lot of fantasy stories set in the 20s. So, and the fact that Dragon Riders too is awesome. So, now I got each of these books at different times though. And I'm trying to save them for Jane Austen July before I read this series. Okay, so then we have another situation where I wanted a particular edition of the book, and that is Les Miserables and by Victor Hugo. Now this is one of the ones where I know I took off the little scanner sticker from Thrift Books off of this one. I remember doing it. And then I think it was after this one I decided, let me just leave these on. And I love the leathery look of this one and how it has quotes. And this was not the only book that I got in this edition. Age of Innocence was in this edition. I also had 20,000 Leagues Under the Seas in this edition. Sadly, both of those I have, decided the books weren't for me. Like, I was very unsatisfied with 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and Age of Innocence, I liked it, but, I've kind of moved on from Kate Morton, from that author whose name escapes me at the moment. And it does feel like reading a Bible with these pages. I am in the second book. But yeah, I love this book. Before, when I first read it, I read an abridged version. As the story goes, I didn't love it at the time. I loved the musical more. Well, now that I'm older and more mature, I definitely like the book. I really enjoyed the book so far. But yeah, this is such a, I like this edition. Since then, I've tried to avoid abridged versions, but there are sometimes exceptions, like Decline and Fall, that I am never going to read the original volume. But there's another book that I got the abridged version. I was disappointed at first, but then I was like, well, let me use this as a way to try the story out. And that was my most recent purchase. But this is about an escape. This takes place in France. And you have an escaped Jean Valjean, and he has been in prison for 19 years. He gets out on parole. But he breaks his parole because when he ends up living in this abbey with this priest and the nuns that live there, and he ends up trying to steal from them. And the police come with the intention of, bring him back, and then the priest says, well, actually, I gave those to him. And he makes Jean Valjean promise to no longer be a criminal and redeem himself. And the fact that this man didn't sell him out gives him this moment of clarity, this epiphany, and he decides to fulfill that promise and become a better man. And he establishes himself as a mayor, and then eventually one of his workers, he ends up owning a business, a factory, and one of the female workers that works for him, she's thrown out on the street when her the manager harasses her and assaults her sexually, throws her out, and he finds out that she has a kid, and Jean Valjean runs into her while she's prostituting herself and decides to, feeling guilty, offers to take care of her. And then when she dies, he ends up finding her daughter, because she had a daughter, and raises the daughter. And then the revolution happens, and a group of revolutionary students are trying to fight back, and it's like does not necessarily go very well. So a lot happens in this book. Oh, and one of the students falls in love with his adopted daughter, Jean Valjean's adopted daughter. And sorry, I'm acting like that's such a small part, but it's not a small part in the story. It's a lot bigger than what me saying in passing. But the main story is Jean Valjean's, and there's so much more in this book than what you get in the stage show. But I still love the stage show. But anyway, this is really good. And I haven't finished it because now this is one that I'm not sure if I got. I think I ordered it off the Thrift books. It might have been an Amazon purchase. Actually, this might have been Amazon, but this is the name of the name of all things. The sequel to, okay, it's not there. The sequel to the Ruin of Kings. This is from the Chorus of Dragons series, and I really liked it. The whole structure I thought was really cool. And this is the second book. And I was like, I better buy this online because I might not see it at the store at any point. And even if I see it at Books A Million, it's going to be a little more expensive. So I can get on Amazon or Thrift Books for a little cheaper. So this might have been an Amazon purchase. But anyway, there's that. And then we have, this is the Dragon Reborn, which is book 3 in the Wheel of Time series, which I did not realize it wasn't as long as the other books. It's probably the shortest one next to the prequel. The prequel is probably the shortest book, but this is probably the next shortest book. This is the third one. I try not to buy these books online because this is again another very popular series that people buy online all the time, so it disappears quickly. So you know, I've just waited until I get it as a gift because buying at Books A Million would be more expensive. So again, I got the other books from the series as gifts for Christmas because this is the edition that I want, and because I like the size, and you know, basically it's all about the size, and the covers are really cool. So this is the only one I bought for myself of this series. Okay. And then, okay, I'm gonna have to get up. Okay. So then we have, all these. So we have another Rome book, Suetonius's Lives of the Caesars, the Oxford World Classics edition, and a lot of people describe this as very gossipy, so it's a little bit more of a fun nonfiction read. But he talks about all the Caesars and their histories and, you know, all the gossip about each one of them. It's a very famous nonfiction work from the classic nonfiction. And then we have, I rebought North and South because I had another copy of it, which there was nothing wrong with that copy. It's just at the time I was like, I liked it, I read it, you know, I don't need to keep it. But then I recently changed my mind and rebought it. So, and I actually prefer this over Pride and Prejudice. I mean, I love Pride and Prejudice, don't get me wrong, but this one was a little bit more interesting with its premise. I mean, and you had the subplot of the workers versus the factory owners, the managers, and that whole, you know, them going on strike and everything. That whole plot I thought was really interesting. So yeah. The only thing is I prefer the miniseries ending over the ending of this book. Because the ending in the miniseries seems so much more romantic. And then I have, Here's the Moonstone by Wilkie Collins, the other Wilkie Collins book I have next to, along with Armadale, but I think I bought that at Black Castle, so it's not here right now, but this is about this young girl who's given this really beautiful, expensive necklace, and she wears it to her party, but then it goes missing, and a detective has to find out who stole it. So, he writes obviously there's a lot of mysteries and detective stories. And then, we have Mary Elizabeth Braddon's The Lady Audley's Secret, about this woman who marries this guy's cousin. His cousin's a either he's missing or dead, and the cousin suspects that Lady Audley might be responsible, and she has this little secret that she, doesn't want anyone to know, and that's kind of why he's suspicious of her, I think. I've heard people say that they you figure out the secret pretty quickly about her. And then here is 10 at Wildfell Hall. This is the other Anne Bronte. She sadly only wrote 2 books. I think this is about a woman who leaves her husband and ends up, going to staying at this inn or tavern or whatever. But because it's not good and not right in this time period to leave your husband, there's all these rumors and gossip, and she is not a very good woman. So I wonder, some of these you would think I would pick them up because they're not that long, but like I said, I get sidetracked really easily. Okay, let me go ahead. These are the only. My ring light almost fell. These are the only non-thrift books purchases that were purchased online that I have. Like, I have bought other things from Book Outlet, but they weren't for me. They were for my nephew. So I saw these when we went up to Asheville at an Asheville bookstore. But my mom said something that, made sense. If I wanted to buy them, if I was going to buy one of these editions, then I would want to buy more than one. So, she was like, let's not buy those there at that bookstore and just order them online. So I ended up buying a different one instead there. But I was very eager to buy these. And my mom was like, okay, can we just wait until you get home? Until we get home at the... So I have here, Around the World in 80 Days, which I've read, Secret Garden, which I've read, Time Machine I've read, and then Robin Hood I'm in the middle of, and then Journey to the Center of the Earth. So that makes me feel a little bit better, but these were not thrift books, so it's only a little bit better, because at least I've read some of my online purchases. And then I have only a few more to go, but I have to get up again because I don't organize these. I just kind of grab them and throw them in a pile. Okay, and then we have A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens with the chimes and the Haunted Man, I think it is. Is that what it's called? Yeah, The Haunted Man. This is some of his Christmas novellas. I've read all 3 of them. I enjoyed them, although Christmas Carol is still my favorite. I do want to reread both of them, The Chimes and The Haunted Man again. The Chimes was cute. The Haunted Man was kind of a disappointment to me. But I do need to reread them. I once attempted to... I borrowed from the library a collection of his actual shorter stories, because these are not that short. They're more like novellas. And it felt incomplete, like they were missing something, Because I'm so used to Dickens in longer works that when I read his shorter works, it's like, okay, where's the rest of it? But I did really like these editions, and this is not the only version of the only book that I have in this edition. Okay, then we have one of the Russian classics. This is one of the ones I have in the same edition as I have A Christmas Carol. This is a Russian classic, Master Margarita, by Mikhail Bulgakov, and I actually have another book by Bulgakov I have a book someone wrote about how Bulgakov was inspired to write this book. Like a fictionalized take. This is kind of a deal with the devil type of story, like where these guys meet the devil and don't realize it. And I've read a little bit of it. It's a very eccentric story from what I've heard. But anyway, so I need to pick that one up. I mean, I feel like that's one I should consider because, like, War and Peace is a long one. Okay, and then we have The Fall of Arthur. I've been slowly collecting, building a Tolkien collection of books. So this is his take on what happened to Arthur and his failure, you know, like his fall. And what happened with Mordred and everything. So it's his take on King Arthur. And then here we are, finally the last two books. So this is the one that's in a British version, The Tale of Genji. The first time I heard about this book was from Sean the Bookmanian. It's one of his favorites. He has been living in Japan with his partner. He is a teacher, and he loves this book. And at the time, I was not interested, but then I was like, it was brought up by someone else. I was like, let me check this out. And this is a first translation, Americanized translation. So I was like, let me just get this version. And then I realized, wait a second, it's an abridged version because it's not as long as I would have thought. And then the last book, and The Tale of Genji is about this guy. He's basically a bastard. And he ends up, he's really talented. He's good at, he's an artist and he's like a charmer. He kind of reminds me a little bit of the guy in Julian from The Red and the Black a little bit. And then we have, but I don't know, it might be, and this was kind of the first novel that was ever written, so I'm excited to try it. And then last is, I am still continuing my journey of finding Filipino books. I put a lot of books on either Thrift Books wishlist or Amazon wishlist, but this is a family saga story. I don't know how to say the author's name, but this is the first book, and there is another book that I was gonna buy that was a 2 books in the series, but then I realized it's book 2 and 3, so I was like, I better buy this. And I'm excited to read this. I'm excited to continue reading more books, more Filipino literature. And there was an author that someone recommended to me that I'm going to try as well. And I did spy one of their books on Amazon when I was searching for Filipino literature on Amazon. So I'm going to buy that as well at some point. But yeah, I'm excited to read this one as well. Okay, so that is all my Thrift Books books. And like I said, I've only read a couple of them, sadly. So I need to go through and read some of these books, especially the ones that aren't that long and I don't have much of an excuse. So if you guys like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, click subscribe if you haven't already, click the bell notification below if you want to be notified about my latest videos, and I will talk to you all later. All right, bye!